Alright, what is up, everybody? We are back with another edition of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys are having a good one. Today, we're going to be talking about three teams that are hot right now. The Lakers, the Rockets, and the Pistons. Those three teams are on win streaks. They're doing very well, and I want to talk about them here in today's video. Thank you guys for the views on the videos and the shorts recently. I really appreciate it. If you do like the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn on notifications, doing all stuff like that. I really appreciate it. It really helps out a lot. Link to my Twitter and all that stuff down in the description below. And yeah, don't waste any more of your time. Let's get right into it. So first, we're going to talk about the Lakers. And these three teams that are hot right now, they're on a 5-game win streak, tied for the longest in the NBA right now. They're 7-2, and this team has been really impressive to me. First, diving into the numbers of what makes this team good. Right now they have a top 5 offense, they're the 5th rated offense in the league. Defense is 18th, so they're average there, 13th in net rating. So a great offense and an average defense. Honestly, in the regular season, that's a really good recipe to win games. You know, you look at their numbers right now: 11th in points per game, solid. They're first in field goal percentage. They're a very efficient shooting team. They're shooting 52% from the field. They're also second in effective field goal percentage and first in true shooting percentage as a team. So they're the most efficient shooting team in the league. So that's going to help a lot, obviously, with their offense. You look at their offense, they're not really a good three-point shooting team. Interestingly enough, 29th in three-pointers made, 26th in three-point attempts, 24th in three-point percentage. So they're not a good three-point shooting team. They're not a team that relies on the three ball, really. But where they make up with it is they're top 5 in free throws made and free throw attempts. So they get to the free throw line a lot. Again, they're very efficient shooting. And you look at pick and roll ball handlers. They're first in pick and roll ball handler points per possession. They average over 25 points per game in terms of what their pick and roll ball handler does, which is credit to Luka and Austin Reeves for being able to control that pick and roll. So how they score on this offense is they shoot the ball efficiently, they get to the free throw line, and their pick and roll, ball handler is really good. And they also score in the paint. They're 4th in points in the paint per game. They average almost 56 points per game in the paint. So despite not being a great 3-point shooting team, they're still being able to score a bunch of points because they just get easy ones, and they have an elite creators that create for themselves and for others. And then defensively, they're not horrible. They're just about average. Some of the things that stick out in the defensive end, they're 3rd in points off turnovers. They average over 22 points per game off turnovers. So they get easy ones there. Meaning they're top 10th in forcing turnovers. They force 16 turnovers per game. So that's great. They're 13th in opponent points per game. They're 3rd in opponent defensive rebounds. So they're not giving up a bunch of defensive rebounds, which equates to them being an efficient shooting team. They're not giving teams chances to get defensive rebounds because the shots are going in. So, yeah, their efficiency has been great. They're scoring off turnovers. They're doing all these great things. They've had a couple great wins. And overall, you look at this Laker team, and this just doesn't feel like a Laker team of the past. This feels like a different Laker team. There's a different vibe when it comes to this team. Look at some of these wins. Beating Minnesota, thanks to Austin Reeves. They beat Memphis. They beat Miami. Beat Portland without Luka, LeBron, or Austin Reeves. And then their last game, they beat San Antonio without Austin Reeves. LeBron hasn't played a single second, and it hasn't mattered. Luka Doncic has been on an MVP tear. Give you 40, 10, and 9 this year. I think, first player ever to average 45 and 5 in the first 5 games of the season or whatever. He's been unstoppable. He's firmly in the MVP conversation right now. It's him, Shea, and Giannis for me in that MVP conversation. He's just been like on another planet in terms of what he's been doing, and it's really been, helping this team out a lot. Obviously, having a guy like Luka that can just do whatever he wants really on offensive end and makes everything happen. But it's really been the others. It hasn't, like, the first few games of the year, it was just kind of Luka and him just doing Luka things, and everyone else were just kind of waiting, like, okay, who's going to follow him or whatever. In the last couple games, even without Luka, the others have really found themselves and have stepped up a lot. Got to give a bunch of credit to Austin Reeves as well. Austin Reeves was playing like a superstar. 31 points, 9 assists, getting to the free throw line a lot. Has some crazy moments. He's been amazing. We know how good Austin Reeves is, but this is just like another level of Austin Reeves where he's doing Luka things a little bit. Like he's been the main pick and roll ball handler. He's been attacking the basket. He's been shooting the ball well, clutch moments. His playmaking has been off the charts as well. He has just been like insane. So when you have two guys that can just do the things that those guys do in terms of offensively, they just know the system and are going to make everyone around them better while also being able to be elite scorers. That just makes a lot happen. But it's really been the role players that have really stepped up and have made this team impressive to me. DeAndre Ayton had a really rough start in the first few games, but overall, the last couple of games, he's been finding himself. You know, like he's been a lot more comfortable in terms of the pick and roll and scoring off that. He's been a lot better in the rebounding has been a big thing for me. You know, he's averaging 3 offensive rebounds per game. He's had a couple games where he's had some big offensive rebounds on certain possessions. He's been boxing out guys that you would think are better rebounders than him. And I know DeAndre Ayton is a streaky guy. You know, this can go away pretty soon. But what he's been given to them recently has been exactly what they've wanted from DeAndre Ayton. So I've been very like impressed with him. Rui Hachimura has been very efficient, you know, shooting the ball, scoring the ball. He's had a couple games where he's been effective there. Marcus Smart, you know, the numbers don't stick out from him, but if you know Marcus Smart, you know he's not a box score guy. He's not a guy that you just look at the box score and it tells you everything. He's a guy that just goes beyond that. You know, and he's been super huge for this team. I mean, he's been like the way he's aggressive, the dog mentality, the toughness that he brings, the like I'm willing to sacrifice or do anything I can for my team. The Lakers haven't had a player like that in a long time, you know? And so he's just been so key to this team in terms of giving them another dog out there, you know, being a vocal leader, you know, taking accountability, helping out guys, you know, but also being a pest out there in the court and just giving your team an extra boost of energy and a chance to win. And he's been super great at that. You know, this is the Marcus Smart that we know. And he's been big. Jake LaRavia has been hooping. He's a guy that just was coming in and no one really cared. But, you know, he's been very efficient shooting the three ball. He brings a lot of energy and activity. He gets his when he gets his. He never oversteps. He competes defensively. He gets to the basket. He has some athleticism. And yeah, he's been a big bright spot to this team as well. I think you have some other guys like Nick Smith Jr. coming in with that Portland game and giving you 25 and hitting 5 threes. You know, in a game where past Laker teams probably wouldn't have won that game. With no LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves, oh man, it's over. We're losing by 30. But Nick Smith Jr. had a big game there. Dalton connected. He has even found his rhythm a little bit over the last couple games. He looks a little bit more confident. It's growing a little bit. Jackson Hayes, I like what he's been bringing to the table in terms of he just knows his role. You know, I'm going to rebound, set screens, catch lobs. That's all I do. You know, even Bronny has gotten some minutes and he's has some plays here or there, especially on the defensive end that have been good. So, you know, they've been buying in and got to give a lot of credit to JJ Redick. He's done a fantastic job since coming in. I mean, he just is empowering everybody, putting his team in the right positions, you know, getting his team wins that they probably shouldn't even really be getting, you know, and he has this team rolling right now, man. So you got to give a lot of respect and credit to JJ for what he's done there. And again, this Laker team is really impressive to me, man. I watch this team and I'm like, dang, like they're actually competing, they're fighting hard, they're playing with cohesion, they're playing with activity. You know, the role players are stepping up and hitting shots and making big plays and winning games that usually the Lakers don't really win. Like, it's been super impressive, you know. And now it's only been 9 games. They have 72 more games to play, and I can say this about every team. You know, we're still in we just got to November, but this Laker team is super impressive. Usually, this is about the time where people are like, "Oh man, you know, like what's gonna happen? How are they gonna make a trade? You know, what trade can they make? These role players, all offseason acquisitions aren't stepping up. How do we fix the Lakers? You know, like is LeBron happy? What's gonna happen?" Now it's not that. It's like, dang, this Laker team is winning games. You know, we love DeAndre, we love Jake LaRavia, we love Marcus Smart. Austin Reeves has been a superstar. Luka's might be the MVP of the league, and LeBron hasn't played a single second yet. Like, it's been super impressive. So shout out to the Lakers for really going out there hooping and doing their thing. Next, going to the Houston Rockets, who are also on a 5-game win streak. They're 5-2. That 0-2 start that they had is just in the rearview mirror. Don't even remember that right now because they've been doing their thing recently. Look at their numbers. They have the #1 offense in the NBA. They have the best offense in the league. 6th best defense, first in net rating. And specifically over this 5-game win streak, the numbers are still the same, but just the ratings. I mean, #1 offense, they have a offensive rating of over 128. The 6th ranked defense, they have a defense rating of 108.6 and a net rating of 19.5 over this 5-game win streak. They've been super impressive of what they do, you know? And it's funny because the first 2 games of the year, I talked about like the offense clunkiness, you know, where it's like, dang, this team, you know, they're missing a point guard. They don't have Fred VanVleet. You could tell, you know, everybody's kind of trying to figure out this new role. And offensively, they look really kind of like clunky, you know, whatever. That is kind of not there anymore. They're still being able to work on the offensive end without that, with or without that. And it's been super impressive. Look at their numbers. They average the most amount of points per game. They average over 124.5 points per game. The 3-point shooting has been impressive. You know, they're the best 3-point shooting team in the league. They shoot over 42.5% from 3, which is first in the league, despite them not being a high volume team. You know, they're 29th in 3-point attempts. So they're not shooting a bunch of threes, but when they do get their threes, they're going in. You know, kind of similar to what the Nuggets were in the past couple years. Like the Nuggets during their championship years and all that stuff, they're never a high volume team. They always were like top bottom five in terms of 3-point attempts, but they're always great efficiently. You know, like they were never like they're not just coming out here chucking threes. You know, they pick and choose their spots when they get threes, but when they do get their threes, they're going in. And that's what the Rockets are doing right now. They've been very efficient in terms of their 3-point shooting. Um, Free throws, they do that. They're third in free throws made, second in free throw attempts. So they're getting easy ones. They're getting to the line a lot. They're the best rebounding team in the league. You know, they average 50 boards per game. First and second chance points, they average over 20 and a half second chance points. And that's been their model for the past 2 years. That's what they brought in Steven Adams and paid Steven Adams for. What they brought Clint Capella in for this offseason. They're a team that just, their game plan is go get offensive rebounds and second chance points. Because you think, like, we're NBA players. We're going to make shots. So the more you give us a chance to shoot, the more likely the chances of going in, and the more likely we are to score in that position if we get an offensive rebound. So let's just get every offensive rebound we could possibly get and get third, fourth chance opportunities because those third and fourth chances, they're probably going to go in because we're NBA players. We do that. So yeah, they're eighth in points in the paint. They average over 53 points in the paint per game. So everywhere offensively they do. I mean, they score efficiently. They shoot the three ball efficiently. They get to the free throw line a lot. They score on second chance points. They score on points in the paint. They do basically almost everything offensively. You know, looking at some of the things where they strive in transition. They're second in transition points per possession. They average over 29 points per game in transition, which is top 5 in the league. So they get out in transition and get easy ones. Also, cuts. They're sixth in cuts points per possession. They average over 15 points per game on cuts, which is second in the league. So cutting, transition, in the paint, shooting from three, free throw line, second chance points. They do all of that offensively. They've been an amazing offensive team. And even with that clunky lineup, which they actually have not gone to. After that 2-game losing streak, they moved Steve Adams out of the starting lineup and put Josh Okogie in the starting lineup, and just open up so much more space. They still play with the double big lineup for sure. They still Steven Adams and Clint Capella still play out there with Alperen Sengun, and they still just are a naturally huge team. Like even their small forwards and power forwards are 6'8", 6'9", that could go out and get rebounds. Like everybody on this team is at least 6'8", it feels like. So they just are a naturally huge team that gets a bunch of rebounds, but they still play the double big lineup, yet they're still shooting the ball super efficiently, and they're still having able to find a way to score offensively. And then defensively, they're still really good too. Fourth in opponent field goal percentage, so they don't give up a bunch of easy shots. They're first in opponent free throws made and second in opponent free throw attempts. So they're one of the best teams in the league at getting to the free throw line, and they're also maybe the best team in the league at not giving up free throws. So there's always going to be a free throw differential. So, I mean, that's just putting yourself in a great position. You're getting extra points. You're getting free points, literally. Second in opponent rebounds per game. Obviously, they're a great rebounding team. They don't give up a lot of rebounds. They're fifth in opponent points per game. So you lead the league in points per game, but you're also top 5 in not giving up points per game. That's a great combination, And the funny thing is with their defense is they do it. They're not a team that relies on turnovers, Like they're 27th in opponent turnovers per game. They're one of the worst teams in the league at forcing turnovers. They're not coming out here getting 10 steals and 10 blocks and, we're just going to cause chaos, kind of like what OKC does. They straight up are like, hey, we're not going to force a lot of turnovers. We're not going to gamble a lot. But you know what? You're not going to score on me one-on-one. We just have great perimeter defenders and a great interior defense. We're just going to let you shoot. And, you're not going to get past us one-on-one. We're going to guard up. And you're going to miss, and we're going to rebound, and we're going to get out in transition, and we're going to score. We don't need the turnovers. We don't need the steals and blocks, because we're just going to lock you up. That's what they do defensively. So yeah, they've really been able to get wins. Their schedule hasn't been the greatest over this 5-game win streak. I will admit that. All these teams are not Brooklyn, Toronto, Boston, Dallas, Memphis aren't the best of teams right now. Most of those teams are going through losing streaks or whatever, but still being able to get wins, and they look so much better. Amen Thompson, I feel like has been a big boost to this team over these past 5 games. He's been hooping, in the past 4 games, he's averaging over 20 points per game with over like 8 rebounds, 6 assists, couple steals. He's shooting the ball super efficiently. The last 2 games, he put up 27 against Dallas, and then last game he had 28, 10, and 7 against Memphis. So I think he's really been a huge part in this win streak and them finding his rhythm. I feel like the first 2 games, he was still trying to figure out like, okay, am I the point guard here? Do I defer to Durant? Where do I kind of fit in offensively? But now the last 2 games, I feel like he's kind of figured it out. Where it's like, all right, I'm going to handle the ball most times, but I'm also going to be able to be in the cup, with in the dunker spot with Şengün, and they're going to give me easy points. I feel like most of those cut points per game are him just sitting in the dunker spot and waiting for Şengün to dump him down so he can just dunk on everybody. Because he's super efficient in scoring around the basket. And I feel like he's been just a huge factor. I mean, he's literally kind of like a Swiss Army knife on steroids. We know about his elite athleticism. No one at all really challenges his athleticism. He's just a freak of nature there. He's a high IQ player. He gets off cuts and he knows when to pass the ball. He gets out in transition and runs. He rebounds. He's a good passer. He's an all NBA caliber defender. And also recently he's been able to be confident on the offensive end in terms of getting to the basket. Where nothing's happening. All right, I'm just going to go one-on-one and boop, 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 get to the rim because I know if I get to the rim, you're going to have to foul me because I'm going to be able to finish and dunk on you. So he's been great. Kevin Durant has been doing Kevin Durant things. He just fits like a glove offensively. Şengün has been really good this year. Well, 22, 9, and 7. He's really bought into that lead facilitator, playmaker role while also being able to score efficiently inside. And then some of the others, like Jabari Smith Jr. I really like what he's been doing defensively. He gets it on the glass and he's shooting the ball super efficiently, 39% from 3. Tari Eason and Josh Okogie have been great as well. Tari Eason and Josh Okogie are both shooting over 50% from 3. Tari Eason shooting 56% from 3. Josh Okogie shooting 52% from 3. Like, those two have been just knocking the lights out from 3. Is that going to stay like that the whole season? Obviously not. But just them having the confidence of being able to shoot the 3 ball, while also we know what they can do on the defensive end, that's just big. And yeah, this team is just rolling right now. They're finding their confidence. I would love to see them play their next time when they play against they play the Spurs tonight on the NBA Cup. So that's gonna be a game I'm super locked in on, because I'm super excited for this team. They're finally figuring out their rhythm. They've been hot recently. They're doing what they do. They really stick to their principles. And this looks more like the team that we thought coming into the year of like a contender potentially. And the final team we're going to talk about is the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons have won 4 in a row. Right now they're 6-2. They're second in the Eastern Conference. They've won a couple games after having a little bit of a rougher start off on the offensive side of the ball. They've recently been finding the rhythm and they're getting impressive wins. Look at their team numbers first of all. The 17th rated offense. So offensively they're average. But defensively they're 3rd. So they're an elite defensive team. They're 7th in net rating. Elite defense, average offense. Sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work, but here's how they're doing it. You look at all their offensive numbers, and they're like nothing really sticks out to you. Like they're 21st in points per game, 18th in field goal percentage. They're not a great 3-point shooting team. They're 27th in 3-pointers made and 28th in 3-point attempts. They're not a good 3-point shooting team. They're not a high-powered offense at all. All their numbers are about average to like just whatever offensively. Nothing really jumps off the table. The things they do offensively is points in the paint. They're first in points in the paint. They average over 58 points per game in the paint. So they get to the rim and score a lot. And they rebound well too. They're 5th in offensive rebounds per game, 4th in rebounds per game, and 9th in second chance points. So taking a page out of the Rockets book, where they rebound and they score in the paint and they score on second chance points. That's really a lot of how they score. So offensively they're just about average, but defensively, they're one of the best teams in the league. They're elite on that end. Look at their defensive numbers. 1st in blocks per game. They average over 7 blocks per game. They do that. They're 7th in points off turnovers and 7th in fast break points. So they're getting easy points in transition and fast break points. That's how they're scoring a lot, is in transition and off turnovers. They're 1st in opponent field goal made, 6th in opponent field goal attempts, 1st in opponent field goal percentage. So they give up the least amount of field goals in the league, and teams shoot the worst against them. So they're really been locked into this defense. And, if we're not going to score a lot offensively, you're not going to score a lot offensively either. They're 1st in opponent assists per game. They give up the least amount of assists. They're 9th in opponent turnovers per game. They're 4th in opponent points per game. They only give up 111 points per game. They're 2nd in opponent points off turnovers, 6th in opponent fast break points, 3rd in opponent points in the paint. So they don't give up paint points. They don't give up points in transition and easy points like that. So defensively, they do basically everything well. They force turnovers. They don't give up easy ones in transition. They don't give up points in the paint. They don't give up a lot of assists. They don't give up easy shots in general. And yeah, they just do that. And they also are a good team at scoring off the turnovers and scoring in the fast break while not giving up points off the turnovers and fast break. So they're getting advantages there. They've really like locked into this defensive team, and I like the identity they have now, where they just have really bought into like we're just gonna be a tough, gritty team that's not gonna be easy to play. We're not gonna score a whole bunch of points, but you're not gonna score a whole bunch of points either. We're gonna get into a dogfight. You're gonna have to fight for everything to beat us, and I like that. But how they're winning these games, because usually great defense, average offense isn't the perfect way. Sometimes it's a spectrum where sometimes teams are really good at that, sometimes teams can't do that really well. But how they're able to win these games is in the clutch. They have a 4-1 clutch record. They're the third best clutch record in the league. 4 clutch wins already. 4 of their 6 wins are in the clutch. Look at their games: beat Houston by 4, beat Boston by 6, beat Memphis by 8, beat Utah. Like, some of these games, their margin is bigger, even though their game was a lot closer, but they just scored a couple more at the end to be able to win. But a majority of their wins have been like, even like the Dallas game, they won by 12, but that game they had to fight for and win in the clutch. Against Utah, they won by 11, but they had to go out and win that one in the clutch. They haven't had a real dominant win besides like Orlando, I guess. But even then, Orlando, it wasn't like they were up by 20 the whole game. They more kind of just like at the end, they kind of just walked away with it. So all their wins they have had to really earn. They haven't had like a big dominant win, blowout win yet this year. And that's because they're 4-1 in the clutch. They have the best offensive rating in the clutch. They have a 135.9 offensive rating in clutch games, while also having a top 5 defense in terms of clutch defensive rating, and they're third in net rating in the clutch. So they've been one of the best clutch teams in the league, and a lot of that is Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham has been the best fourth quarter scorer in the NBA this year. He leads the league in fourth quarter scoring. He's averaging like over 12 points per game in the clutch in the fourth quarter. He's had a couple games where he's dominating the clutch, like against Orlando. 3 of the last 4 games, really. Against Orlando, to start this win streak, he had a great start to the fourth quarter, and that really drove them to be able to win. Against Dallas, he wasn't scoring the ball a whole lot, but his playmaking in the clutch was really big. In the last 2 games, in Memphis, he got like 19 in the fourth quarter to be able to win that game. And their last game against Utah, he had a big fourth quarter as well, where he had like 12, 14 points, and was able to close that game out as well. So he's just been lights out in the fourth quarter, and so their system and what they go by is, we're not going to be a high-powered offense. We're going to be an elite defense. We're going to force you into a physical, dogfight, and we have a superstar that's going to close us out. That's how we win games. And they've been really good there. Cade Cunningham has been really, really good. Give you 24, 5, and 9. He's been elite at playmaking. He had an 18 assist game the other day in Mexico City against Dallas. And when the fourth quarter starts, he's just been lights out. So you have that. Jalen Duren has also been really impressive to me as well. He gave you 18 and 11, 1.5 blocks per game. Over the last couple games, he's been really good. He had a 30-point game in Mexico City against Dallas. The last game is Utah. He had 22 and 22. He looks a lot more confident on the offensive side of the ball. He's been having times where he's getting the ball and he's just going at the basket and going at the other team's big. He's been rebounding the ball crazy. He's averaging over 4.5 offensive rebounds per game. He's just been a monster on the glass and owning the paint. And he's been really good. Ausar Thompson is great in terms of just being everywhere. 14, 7, and 3 with 1.5 steals per game. He just is everywhere. Tobias Harris got off to a rough start, but he's going to find something there. Isaiah Stewart has been honestly one of their better players as well. Like, he's shooting the ball really well. He's been really great defensively. He's averaging over almost 2.5 blocks per game. He's been great. Duncan Robinson is starting to find his 3-point shot. Ron Holland, I like his energy he brings, even though the numbers don't really stick out for anything. Like, I just love the energy. Like, he's really bought into being just the spark plug off the bench. Like, he's going to come off the bench, and he's going to get a deflection and get a transition to get a dunk, or he's going to force a turnover, or he's going to get an and one and just, like, spark up the crowd and get the team hype. And I like that he's bought into that role. So, yeah, even though they've been going through injury problems, no Jaden Ivey, no Marcus Sasser, they're missing a lot of, Caris LeVert's missed a couple games. Like, they've dealt with some things. They don't have another really secondary ball handler that they feel comfortable with right now. But they've still been able to win because of their mentality they have. They're a tough, gritty team that's going to come out. We're going to defend hard. We're going to play hard. And we have a superstar that's going to carry us. And while also having everybody else like Duren and Stewart and Duncan Robinson and Ron Holland and Ausar, bring energy and make big plays as well throughout the game. So, yeah, this Detroit team is cooking right now recently. They're 6-2. And with the East, the way it looks right now, they genuinely could probably – there's a role where they finish as the top 3 seed in the East, man. There is a world. The Cavs, maybe starting to get going. The Knicks are starting to get going. The Bulls right now are really good. The Sixers are kind of coming back down to earth. Like the Bucks are there. Like obviously it's gonna be a fight for that East, but right now, I mean, the way they're playing, I love it. I love the identity they have. I love the way they play. I love Kate Cunningham and what he does. And this team has just been really cooking recently, and I'm very excited to see how they continue. Like hopefully maybe they can find something consistent in the offensive end they can kind of rely on, and not have to rely on Kate Cunningham having to score 15 points in the fourth quarter every game. But I mean, I like watching this team. I love the identity they have, and they've been doing really, really well recently. And yeah, it's gonna be it today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, if you enjoyed the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn on notifications, doing all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. It really helps out a lot. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.